So in the Thursday night game between the Vikings and Eagles, Eagles won, and Madden predicted that the Eagles would win, and I also predicted that the Eagles would win. That would move our records to the selected records right there above. As right now, we're going to hop into our first game that's not Thursday Night Football because we already simulated that. Ravens versus Bengals, an AFC North clash. So we'll hop right into it. Ravens trying to move to 2-0, and the Bengals trying to get their first win of the day. There's the Ravens win against the Texans there, 25-9. The Bengals shockingly lost to the Browns, 3-24. So they're definitely looking to change that in this, and it looks like they're on their way to doing that, according to Madden. As Madden predicts that the Bengals will win this game 34-16. Basically dominating the Ravens like they should have done to the Browns in week 1, but were unable to. As there's their score once again, and my score prediction for the Bengals, because I do think they are going to win. I think they're going to beat the Ravens with a score of 20-17. And right now we're just going to look through the stats here. Passing the ball, Joe Burrow and Lamar both weren't terrible. Neither threw a pick. Rushing yards, there's the rushing touchdowns every player. And the leading rusher was Joe Mixon, Gus Edwards, Lamar behind him. And receiving-wise, looks like OBJ randomly got hurt in Madden. That's weird that he did that. Tyler Boyd had 2 touchdowns, and that's the rest of the receiving yards. And there were no interceptions in this game. And yeah, that's going to be the stats for this game, as me and Madden both agree that the Bengals are going to win this matchup. And our next matchup is going to be between the Seahawks and the Lions, as the Lions went 1-0, and the Seahawks lost to the Rams in very surprising fashion. As we're going to start the simulation now, as right here on the screen is the Seahawks lost to the Rams, which is extremely surprising for them in the NFL, and the Lions surprising the Chiefs with the score of 21-20. They beat them. And right now, it looks like this game's close, so we don't know really who's going to come out on top. As the Seahawks make it a tie game, now it's an overtime, and it looks like the Seahawks are going to come away with this one, rebounding from their first loss against the Rams in week 1, according to Madden. Lions falling to 1-1 with a score of 27-24. Madden thinks the Seahawks will win. I think the Lions are going to win. I think they're going to win 24-17, which was ironically almost the score in this game. As passing-wise, Geno Smith threw a pick, but he still had a solid day enough to win the game. As we'll look at the stats here, going to go a little quicker here than I usually do, just because I got to get along with the rest of the games. Is right there all the receiving touchdowns and the receiving yards for each player. And we'll look at all the other things like the defensive interceptions, tackle for loss. I guess we're looking at that too. Kirby Joseph was the one who was able to pick off Geno Smith, but it wasn't quite enough for the Lions to come away with a victory, as the Seahawks still managed to find a way to win the game despite getting no turnovers and able to beat them. So right now we're going to go into our next game, which will be between the Colts and the Texans. It'll be an AFC South matchup. It'll be 2 rookie quarterbacks, both making their second start in this game. As right now, Texans are dominating, as there's the score with them against the Ravens. I already showed it. Colts, I guess I didn't show the Colts. They lost to the Jags 31-21 last week, and they lost this game. And it looks like it will be 20-10 Texans, according to Madden. And I think the Colts got this one, actually. I have them winning 17-14. As passing the ball, CJ Stroud actually had a better day than Anthony Richardson by far. So I guess it makes sense that the Texans won 28-10, considering that Anthony Richardson didn't have a good day and CJ Stroud had a flawless day. As Robert Woods leading in receiving touchdowns, and John Mechie III leading in receiving yards, just barely over Robert Woods. And defensively, the interception is credited to Tyvier Thomas. Never heard of him, but he got the pick on Anthony Richardson, who was just not able to get his team the win on this matchup, according to Madden. And our next game is going to be between the Bears and the Bucks. Bears shockingly losing to the Packers. Well, not shockingly, but it was really the score that was shocking. Bucks shocked the Vikings and beat them 20-17, as it's going to show up on the screen, like it has for the rest of them. So yeah, Bears trying to get their first win of the victory, as they clearly couldn't in that picture there. And the Bucks trying to move to 2-0 to try and surprise some people like they did in Week 1 against the Vikings, as it looks like the Bears are up, and it looks like they will come away with a win here, as Madden thinks the Bears are going to win this one 17-14. And this is another game where me and Madden don't agree, because I think the Bucks got this one. I think they played way better in Week 1 than the Bears did, and I just think they're going to carry on with that momentum. 27-21 is what I think the score is going to be. And we'll look at the stats here. Justin Fields, he didn't really do anything. He had 0 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He had just under 200 yards. Not a whole lot of passing in this game. It was really more rushing, as there were 3 rushing touchdowns in this game. And I think there's only 1. Actually, there might have been... Or let's see, yeah, there's 1 receiving touchdown, because if there's 3 rushing touchdowns, I guess that'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1 more. So yeah, we'll look at the rest of these stats here. Tremaine Edmonds actually got the interception on Baker Mayfield, and that might have been enough for them to seal up that victory, because Justin Fields didn't do too much, but the Bears did enough to win, and I guess that's what matters. As right now, we're going to get to a game that probably matters more to fans than that other game, Chiefs and Jags, as the Chiefs lost to the Lions in Week 1. Jags beat the Colts in Week 1. As we'll look at the scores here, 21-20, I already showed it, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. As the Chiefs trying to rebound from that, 31-21 is the score for the Jags. They're trying to keep on with their momentum, as right now the Chiefs are starting to come back into this game, as they were down by a lot, but now they're up by 1, and that's going to be the game, as Andy Reid and his Chiefs able to rebound from Week 1, and instead of having a 1-point loss, they have a 1-point win, score being 24-23. And I agree. I think the Chiefs are going to win, except I think they're going to win a tiny bit more comfortably, 31-24. As we'll look at the stats here, Patrick Mahomes had a really good day, and Trevor Lawrence had an alright day as well. Both had a pick, but they both did their thing. Definitely not Trevor Lawrence's fault they lost. It was the Jags defense that really sold theirs. Rushing the ball, there's only 1 rushing touchdown. It was by Tank Bigsby, who only had 2 carries on the game. As receiving-wise, Travis Kelce, Christian Kirk, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Isaiah Pacheco, and Zay Jones all had receiving touchdowns, which makes sense, because, I mean, you know, they're passing the ball a lot. It looks like Calvin Ridley got injured. If you wanted to slow the video down and look at that, it had like an injury symbol next to Calvin Ridley, so I don't know why Madden randomly says, oh, these players get hurt and these don't. But yeah, that's just Madden for you, as we'll get on with these stats as we both pick the Chiefs to win this game. As our next game is going to be between the Packers and the Falcons. Both these teams getting a dub in Week 1, and they both did it in comfortable fashion as well, as Jordan Love had a good day for the Packers, and the Falcons able to just run the ball like crazy against the Panthers. And the Packers won this game 38-20, or their last game 38-20. I already talked about it with the Bears. As the Falcons beat the Panthers 24-10. So both these teams feeling good after Week 1. We'll have to see which team comes out on top in this simulation. As right now it's a tie game, goes into overtime. As it looks like the Packers won this game 31-24. As this game was surprisingly high scoring. As it looks like Jordan Love had a good day in this game as well. As obviously, because if they won, I'm assuming the stats are good too. Except I think the Packers will win, but I think it'll be more like 16-13. As passing the ball, Jordan Love actually had 0 touchdowns, but he didn't have any picks. Desmond Ridder actually outplayed Jordan Love. And we'll see how the Packers got all their touchdowns, as Emmanuel Wilson, A.J. Dillon, Jordan Love, and Aaron Jones all got a rushing touchdown. So they just ran the ball like crazy, like the Falcons did to the Panthers in Week 1. And I thought it'd be the other way around, the stats, but it looks like the Falcons got it going in the air instead of the ground. So I guess you can't be too worried about the Falcons if you're their offense, but their defense, man, they let the Packers run that many touchdowns on them. That's not great. As will happen to our next game, it'll be the Raiders and the Bills. The Raiders able to knock off the Broncos, and the Bills shockingly losing to the Jets despite not having Aaron Rodgers play against them, which was a huge blow for the Jets, but as somehow the Bills still couldn't win it, as there's the score between the Raiders and Broncos. And the Bills, man, that's insane. They lost to the Jets 22-16, and it's like they lost to Zach Wilson too. That's the crazy part about it, as they do appear to rebound against the Raiders and make the score 21-14 as the final score. As Josh Allen having a way better time in this post game than he did in week 1, I'm assuming, if they won. I think scores me 27-17 Bills. As passing the ball, Josh had a touchdown and no interception, so already a way better day than he had against the Jets in week 1. Jimmy G did have a pick, so he had about a similar stat line as he did in week 1 against the Broncos. Rushing, Josh Allen had 2 touchdowns, and Josh Jacobs had 1 as well, as he led in rushing yards. And that they didn't run the ball a ton, but he definitely led by a considerable amount. So receiving, Devontae Adams had 83 receiving yards, and a couple of receiving touchdowns by some of these receivers. And we will take a look at whoever got the pick. It was Kaiir Elam of the Bills. Jimmy G threw that pick there. And our last 1 o'clock game of this video is going to be between the Chargers and the Titans. Both these teams losing in week 1. And they lost pretty close games, so both are definitely fighting for their first win. But unfortunately, only one can get it, as Chargers lost to the Dolphins 36-34 in a very high-scoring game, as the Titans lost to the Saints in a not-so-high-scoring game. 16-15 was the score. So both these teams are definitely hungry for their first win, and it looks like the Chargers will be able to satisfy their hunger for the victory by getting this victory, and the Titans will still be winless according to Madden, as the score here is 24-16. And I do think the Chargers are going to beat the Titans, except I think it will be a little closer, 21-17. As passing the ball, oh man, Justin Herbert didn't have a good day. He had 3 interceptions. Man, Titans really got to him in that game. And I guess they still won, so that's a good thing. But damn, that's not good if you're Justin Herbert, because you think he'd have a better game against the Titans, because the Titans don't have that good of a defense. I mean, they don't have a terrible defense, but definitely not one you'd expect to force Justin Herbert to throw 3 interceptions. But I guess their defense came to play, so credit to them, but their offense just wasn't really up to the task of keeping up with the Chargers' limited offense. So the Chargers got the dub there. And our first 4 o'clock game is going to be a divisional matchup between the 49ers and the Rams, an NFC West clash, as this will be the Rams' second in a row NFC West clash, because they played the Seahawks last week. And both these teams are 1-0, so definitely starting the season they like to. And both these teams won in significant fashion, because the 49ers beat the Steelers 30-7, and the Rams able to beat the Seahawks 30-13. Both these teams looked phenomenal in week 1, and we're going to have to see if Madden thinks is going to win, and it looks like the 49ers are going to be the team that comes out on top in this simulation, as the final score of this one is going to be 36-20 49ers, as Brock Purdy able to beat Stafford in this one, which is ironic because it's the irrelevant pick versus the first overall pick, and that's kind of funny that that's the matchup. And my score prediction was 24-20. You might have probably already seen it when it passed, but I was busy talking about the ironic matchup in this game, as CMC actually had a fumble in this game, but obviously it didn't cost his team anything because they still won. Receiving, Tyler Higbee, Ben Skowronek, and George Kittle, Jawan Jennings, Brandon Ayuk all had receiving touchdowns. both quarterbacks definitely were able to air the ball out if there were that many rushing touchdowns, or receiving touchdowns, my bad. Okay, next game is going to be between the Giants and the Cardinals. Both these teams are 0-1, looking for their first victory, as we'll hop right into it after we go to our next segment, as here we are, as the Giants got absolutely destroyed by the Cowboys. 40-0 was the score, so they definitely want to rebound from that. Cardinals losing a close one to the Commanders, 20-16. And you could definitely make the argument they look better than the Giants in Week 1, despite everyone saying they're going to be the worst team in the league. But Madden still thinks that the Giants will come out on top with a score of 27-7. And I agree. I do think the Giants are going to win. The Cardinals don't really have many players that are good. 21-10 is what I think the score is going to be in this game. And I do think the Giants are going to play hungry, because they're probably pissed. They're probably pissed that they lost to the Cowboys in Week 1 in that fashion. They want to make a statement. I mean, the Cardinals aren't exactly a good team, but if they want to prove that they're not the same old Giants, they got to, sharpen up and beat this team, which I think they will, but I mean, they still got to do it. I mean, there's no guaranteed victories in the NFL. And obviously that's not the case, because, we watch it. If it was a guaranteed victory, there'd be no point in watching the NFL. But yeah, Giants come away with this one in Madden. And our next game's going to be between the Jets and the Cowboys. And the Jets, oh man, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, Jets. You lost Aaron Rodgers. I'm so sorry, guys. That sucks. Cowboys, like I just mentioned, beat the shit out of the Giants 40-0. But yeah, the Jets, in case you didn't hear, Aaron Rodgers got hurt and he's out for the season. And yeah, that sucks. I feel so bad for Jets fans right now. But yeah, Cowboys come away with this one 30-18, which I guess isn't too much of a surprise considering they're starting Zach Wilson at quarterback. But yeah, that's just like, I can't get over how agonizing that's got to be if you're a Jets fan. 28-17 is the score. I think Cowboys are going to win. As passing the ball, Zach Wilson, he actually did okay. 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, but Dak had a better day. He had 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And rushing the ball, it looks like there weren't any rushing touchdowns. Tony Pollard was leading in rushing, but not a whole lot of rushing in this game. As receiving, we'll look at those. Dalvin Cook had 2 tutters, and CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks and Michael Gallup all had touchdowns as well. CeeDee Lamb leading in receiving yards. But yeah, sorry about my rambling about the Jets and Aaron Rodgers this one, but I just had to bring that up. That's just like a big event that happened. Okay, our next game is going to be between the Commanders and the Broncos, as the Commanders able to take care of business against the Cardinals, and the Broncos not able to take care of business against the Raiders. So they're definitely looking for their first victory. And right now we'll look at the Commanders' score against the Cardinals that I already mentioned, so I'm not going to really go over it. And same with the Broncos. I already went over it with the Raiders, so it's going to show up, but I'm not really going to talk about it that much. As right now, the Broncos are winning. 21-11 is the score, and it looks like that's going to be the final score according to Madden, as Broncos will move to 1-1, Commanders 1-1, so they'll have the same record. And I obviously hope this happens, because if you guys don't already know, I'm a Broncos fan, as I think they'll win 20-14. So hopefully Madden proves me right, because it would suck to go 0-2. So yeah, we'll see how we go, but I mean, as a bunch of NFL fans will know, no win is a guarantee. And that's obviously the case when you're a fan of a team that kind of sucks. But yeah, I digress. We'll go over the stats. As receiving, there were 3 rushing touchdowns, or 3 receiving touchdowns. I keep saying rushing when I mean receiving. I'm just like, those 2 words are so similar, so I just always fuck up and say the wrong word. Okay, next game is going to be our 8 o'clock game. Final game of Sunday. It's going to be an AFC East clash between the Dolphins and the Patriots. So this should be a good game. I mean, if it's a divisional matchup, I mean, definitely going to be close. These teams always play each other hard. That's the score for the Dolphins Chargers. I already went over it. Patriots able to beat no, they didn't beat the Eagles. They made it close against the Eagles. That's what I meant to say. They lost 25-20, but they made it closer than what I and a bunch of other people probably thought they would, as it looks like the Patriots able to steal this one away from the Dolphins, as the final score of that one's 15-10. And, yeah, that's, I guess, what Madden thinks is going to happen. I don't think the Patriots are going to win. I think the Dolphins are going to win 20-17, just because I think their offense could be legit unstoppable. I think the Patriots will limit them a little bit just because of Bill Belichick and the talent on that team. But I don't think it's going to be enough for them to win, just because, man, that game in week 1 with the Dolphins, like, they put on a show. Like, they were unstoppable against the Chargers. And the Chargers don't even have that bad of a defense. It's not as good as the Patriots, but, I mean, they're definitely not, like, the worst in the league or anything like that. So the Dolphins, they really impressed me in week 1. I think they will win again in week 2, but me and Madden obviously had different opinions on this one. Okay, our first Monday game, because there's going to be 2 Monday games this week for some reason. It's going to be the Saints and the Panthers, as Bryce Young is going to have his second career start here. Hopefully he gets a win. I guess hopefully if you're a Panthers fan, as there's the score between the Saints and the Titans. I already went over it. And the Panthers able to, actually, no, they didn't do anything. They lost to the Falcons 24-10. And they're looking for win number 1, so we'll see if they can get win number 1 against the Saints. And according to Madden, they do, as Frank Reich clapping his hands there, giving his team his props as they able to knock off the Saints 21-17 for Bryce Young's first ever NFL career win. And as much as that's a feel-good story, I don't think that's going to happen. I think Saints 24-17 is more realistic. As right now, we'll look at the stats here, as there were no interceptions in this game. Very similar stat lines from Derek Carr and Bryce Young. 2 touchdowns, no picks for both of them. And rushing yards, there was a fumble by Chuba Hubbard, and I guess it didn't matter because the Panthers still won in this. But, yeah, we'll look at the rest of the stats here. Receiving-wise, Chris Olave had 2 touchdowns, and Ian Thomas and DJ Chark for the Panthers had 1 each. And DJ Chark able to lead in receiving yards, as that will be Saints and Panthers, as we'll just flip the rest of those stats there. As right now, our final game is going to be another divisional matchup between the Browns and the Steelers, AFC East. And you know both these teams are going to play hard against each other, so we'll see how Madden thinks they will play. As, yeah, we'll get right into it, as, it is going to be sort of a close game, kind of low scoring, which I guess isn't that surprising considering that, you know, both teams have pretty good defenses and offenses can be a little inconsistent at times. And we'll look and see who won, as it's kind of hard to tell because the video, you might not be able to tell, but it's kind of lagging on my part, so I'm having a hard time who won, as it looks like the Browns come away with this one 16-13. And I do think the Browns are going to win, but I think it's going to be a little more high scoring, 24-21. Yeah, sorry if my voice and the video don't match up. It was lagging like crazy when I was commentating this. As passing, there were 0 touchdowns and 0 interceptions, so the QBs weren't really the stars of the show in this. As Najee Harris and Nick Chubb had the only 2 rushing touchdowns, so that's how you know this was a defensive performance. There's only 2 total touchdowns on offense. Like, that's crazy. So both these defenses came to play in this game, but the Browns came to play a little bit more because they won, you know. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed my Week 2 predictions and Madden's predictions. Sam versus Madden, you know, that's the whole point of this. And that's going to do it. And we're just going to sign off for now because we got nothing else to go over because we did all the games. So I guess I got to watch NFL and see how these games go. But I'll see you in my next video. See ya.